What, I hit unmute. Was I unmuted this entire time? I hit the button. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. Hang on. I'm completely off my game this whole weekend. I screwed up yesterday too. Good tidings. I want you guys to know that two people independently and without prompting have reached out to me to tell me good tidings today. That really made my day, honestly. Because, yeah. Good morning, everyone who is here. What do we got here? Today we've got Maverick, Cordoon, Mendekler, Neckler Gangster, Darth Tyron, Max Time, some guy named Lore, Ciela, Vigilant, Shikor, Platy, Micromano, Loner, Hazardous, Little Pixie Nerd, Final Cloud, and Blue Off Alex. Yep, so believe it or not, actually I have only one tidbit of show news here. Believe it or not. I guess I have two tidbits. The first tidbit is Sinister Wing. So, Sinister Wing has reached out to me and said that I suck and I deserve to die, and he's absolutely right. I wish, God, it'd be so amazing if I could just die instantly and just, be dead. Unfortunately, I have to say thank you to Uchiha Daisuke first, whose name I can never pronounce correctly, and I always feel bad about it. But nevertheless, thank you, Sinister Wing. And thank you very much, Uchiha. Much obliged to both of you. Thank you. I have put that towards Pathologic 2 and Dragon Quest 1 through 3. Good tidings. Two people, independent of anything, reached out to me and said that good tidings this morning. And that's awesome. I cannot put into words. Like, my sis just texted me, like, right as I was going live. She just texted me saying, good tidings. It's like, aw. Which is just kind of generally awesome. Some of you are probably wondering what the heck that means. But before I go into that, before I go into anything positive, I want to discuss something negative real quick. Because it's important to me. I want to publicly apologize to Blue Wolf Alex for losing my temper at you yesterday. Blue Wolf Alex, I am sorry. I know I apologized yesterday, and I meant it yesterday, but I wanted to make it really, really clear. Two things. Why I was upset, and the fact that, I'm sorry. So, yesterday, we were playing GTA 4, and the last mission was being frustrating and irritating, but, I mean, who cares, right? I know that sounds like a strange thing, but I'm pointing this out because while the game was putting me in a particularly bad mood, the game didn't actually piss me off. Games in general don't actually piss me off. I know what you're thinking, I've played your Banjo-Kazooie run. No, Banjo-Kazooie didn't actually piss me off. It certainly didn't actually make me lose my temper. No, the reason I lost my temper, and this is the second thing I want to talk about, was because it was because of the implication that I didn't care about Blue Wolf Alex's opinion. That he was irrelevant to me, right? Or that I was some kind of elitist jackass who just dismisses him out of hand. Now, I can only say, I do care about your guys' opinions and your thoughts and your perspectives, especially you, when it comes to these things. There's only words that come out of my mouth. So, I'd like to give a little bit of evidence. Obviously, I could point to the several times we've had long discussions about things, but rather than going into that, no, Jack and Daxter didn't actually piss. Well, Jack and Daxter made me angry. That's different, though. I know that sounds strange, but it is a different category. Losing my temper and being angry are two massive, massive gaps. But anyway, hang on, Blue Wolf Alex. I want to finish saying this because it's important to me. You are actually the specific individual who convinced me to pull back from the automatic negative, automatic positive mentality. Like, unskippable cutscenes used to be an automatic negative. It actually isn't anymore. And I don't know if you've actually noticed that. But the fact that, I'll say, well, I mean, we can't skip cutscenes, but it's not a big deal, or you can skip cutscenes, but in these certain circumstances has made it either sometimes it's an aggregate or sometimes it's not a negative at all, depending on the game. That mentality came from your discussions and your mentality, and so that's my evidence in a court of law. That is my evidence that I actually do give a damn. That's all I got. That's all I got. Thank you very much, Jesse's Mask. Oblige and appreciate the sub as always. I'm not sure why FF6 got robbed, but FF6 is awesome, so... I don't suppose you know where you'd like to put that sub as far as increasing priority in a future stream. FF6... See, that's where we differ, Jesse's Mask. But it depends. It does depend. It depends on the specifics. Loreloaded, why are you doing this? See, I'm not that way, other lore. I don't think that way. I don't function that way. I'm talking to my sister here. The other Zelda runs. So, I'll answer Jesse's Mask's question really quick here. Originally, quite a few other games were added to the list that had absolutely zero interest, as in literally zero people had put any money towards them. And so the last culling cycle, we got rid of all the games that had no interest put towards them. That was months and months ago at this point. Now, right now the list is in lockdown, so we can't add new things to the list. But there's your answer. Nobody wanted me to play the rest of the Zelda games. Anyways, that is actually it for show news. I guess I should mention, as of this point, I have gotten a hold of all of the voice actors for the theater. Well, yeah, no, that's exactly my point, Blow Off Alex. The idea that your opinion is ignored is something that is not true, and I wanted to prove that. I wanted to prove that to you, and that's why I said that. Anyways, let's get on with it. Let's get on with this. No, the site hasn't actually been updated. You're 100% correct, Sinister Wing. I'm going to be 100% real with you. With all the stuff I've got going on right now, updating the website to exactly show where the numbers are at is not a high priority unless it actually changes something. So, like, for example, right now, if something got updated to the point where a game would have to be removed from the list, or put into the queue or whatever, then I will absolutely update it. I have been keeping everything tracked locally. I am fully up to date, other than the 4 donations I have received today. So I am keeping track of it, but I haven't updated the site because it's just kind of a lower priority for me right now. I'll probably update the site today. Today's my day off, so I can get a lot of work done. Let's talk about some news. Enough yammering from me. So, yeah, now that we're back into normal news section, let's go back down to here and put it on random. Of course, it's gonna be Stellaris first. It's always Stellaris first. Whoa, Hoshi wo Mirohito is coming out on the Switch in Japan this summer. BioShock, you got it, Jesse's Mask. Now, some of you are probably thinking, what the heck is that? So, Hoshi wo Mirohito is legendarily a bad game. It's one of those games that is just horrifically bad. I, in fact, only became aware of it very recently and did some looking into it and was shocked at the astonishingly terrible quality of it. I mean, holy shkamoli, it is, I cannot summarize how bad that game is. But anyways, apparently it's one of those games that's memeingly bad in Japan. Obviously, most people outside of here haven't heard of it. And the fact that they're pushing it out digitally on the Switch is just hysterical to me. That shows you how memeingly bad this game is. Yes, that's the one, Hazardous. That's the one that I brought up a couple weeks ago at this point, I guess. Anyways, I just thought it was hysterical that of all the games that are getting released on the Switch, 33 years later, here's the link. As always, there's links to the new stuff. Just, wow. So Fortnite has something called party mode now. Now, I know nobody cares about Fortnite. I just mentioned this because it's fascinating in its own right. And here, I'll go ahead and give a link to this thing. It's fascinating in its own right, but you're probably thinking, okay, so Fortnite party mode is Fortnite but without weapons. So you just run around and jump around and build stuff and slash dance at each other and do emotes. Now you're probably thinking, what's the point of that? It's proven to be really popular. Also, it's a venue. Now I'm going to go and say something a little bit strange here. This is an astonishingly smart move on their part. Because what this is a chat room with avatars. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, but we already have plenty of this. Yeah, and most of them suck. Most chat rooms with avatars are poorly coded drivel, which are barely made. Like they're just kind of crap, you know? It's like they just took the Unity engine and then slapped, nothing on it and said, here you go. This is a game that is a functional game that is actually a finished product that also happens to function in this format. And honestly, I would be surprised if we see a lot more of these actual gaming chat room games, whatever you want to call these, chat games, coming out in the future. Yeah, VR chat is just, let's not even talk about that nonsense. Funnily enough, several people have said that MMOs qualify in a similar fashion, and actually that's kind of true, going back to the EverQuest days even. But yeah, this does fit the Fortnite business model pretty well, and it's an interesting idea, and I guarantee you people are going to ape it. Unfortunately, and this is going back to what Sinnerstowing just mentioned, this is also something they've been pushing lately because they've been doing events in Fortnite. In fact, just last week, after introducing party mode, they did a concert in party mode. Now, it's not the first time they've done that. I'm just mentioning it because this is, frankly, a logical progression of events here. Whether it's good or not is a completely other thing, and I don't want to talk about the economic impact, but this is a thing now. It's hard for me to give an opinion on this, truthfully. Anyway, sorry, Shikor, you asked a question. I don't want to sound like I'm ignoring you, because I'm not. Shikor asked a question, what's the difference between DonorBox and everything else? So DonorBox is kind of strange. DonorBox is also really hard to undo, so keep that in mind. Like most other things, you can just say, discontinue. I have yet to been able to discontinue my own test sub to myself on DonorBox, so make of that what you will. So I give myself $1 every month. It's really stupid. But percentage-wise, DonorBox takes the same percent that most people do, which is 15%. They take slightly less than, slightly more than PayPal, which is it's about 3% actually. But, anyways, hope that answers your question. If not, I can go into more detail. But what I really want to talk about is Guild Wars 2. So for those of you not aware, I actually like Guild Wars 2, although I didn't used to. Guild Wars 2 is following what is basically the usual MMO progression path. You have vanilla, which is crap. Yeah, I said it. And then you have the BC equivalent, the next expansion, which is a huge improvement, but still has significant issues. And then usually it's one or two more expansions before it actually gets legitimately good. And that's Guild Wars 2 right there. Heart of Thorns isn't quite as good as Krasusu, but it's like definitely going in that direction. And then Path of Fire is actually as good as Krasusu, which is awesome. Lately they're going through the Icebrood saga, which has been pretty good. I haven't finished it yet. I'm not up to date on it because I haven't had time. But, that's kind of where we're pushing with that one. Anyways, the reason I bring this up, though, is actually because of the fact that they're continuing to develop Icebrood Saga before they actually come up with the next actual expansion, which they're still working on. However, the next thing does not have voice acting. Now, some of you are probably like, who cares? It's an MMO. Well, Guild Wars 2 is really big on voice acting. They have consistently had full voice acting for the main character, because the main character is actually a character in Guild Wars 2 since Heart of Storm. So, thank you, Krasusu, very, very much for the sub. Very much appreciate, sir. So it really helps the cutscenes when everyone's actually talking to each other, and the voice acting really helps sell the characters. So the next episode of Iceberg, which is actually episode 3, will not have any voice acting whatsoever, because of the fact that they basically don't want to risk bringing anyone into the studio and then possibly spreading COVID and blah, blah, blah. They have stated that they will add voice acting later. They'll patch it in after the fact. But that's interesting in its own right that they're going that direction with it. And yeah, the voice acting in Guild Wars 2, it started off decent and got pretty good over time. There's several characters which I'm really into, including the main character, actually. So, I played Assurin, obviously. If anybody curious which voice I listen to all the time. Assurin female. So yeah, it's understandable, it's cool, and I just want to point this out because it's good that they're still producing while still doing the best they can, given the circumstances. No, Magister, Guild Wars 2 is a little different when it comes to that, and I don't want to get too much into that. So that's that bit of news. Now here's this. I don't report on rumors. However, this is getting to the point of being less rumor and more unconfirmed fact. So Nintendo was going to do a big virtual direct thing, a Nintendo Direct thing, somewhere around June to coincide with when E3 was going to happen. Obviously, E3 has not happened, and nevertheless, Nintendo has been going forward with the plans to do that. However, given that factoid, several external companies, third-party companies, have been putting together little presentations and demo reels and game footage to be shown during this Nintendo Direct. They have been told that the event is going to be delayed even further to who knows when, basically. We don't actually know when this is going to happen. That's fine. Again, delays make perfect sense, and apparently just about everyone in Japan right now is having a hellacious issue getting work done at home because their infrastructure isn't set up that way, and neither is their culture. However, regardless of this, they are doing the best they can, and they are going to be pushing out some kind of Nintendo Direct, including several first-party bits of news, which will be going live sometime this year. Considering it was already scheduled for June, who knows how far back that's going to be pushed, July, August, I don't know. But I thought I'd mention it. It is especially relevant for the show, because technically there are... So, if you check the website right now and you go to the very, very, very bottom, you'll see there's games that are locked in. Those games are funded and ready to go. However, those games are not on the actual queue because those games are not out yet. That's the whole point of that. This is a funded game that is not out or is not coming out soon. Now, you may look down there and notice that Mario Galaxy 1 and Mario Galaxy 2 are on that list, and you'll be like, hang on, Laura, I think those games have already come out. And you'd be right, of course. But because of the fact that there is actually an astonishingly high chance that there's going to be a re-release of those games in a modern system, with permission with the main person who was funding those have been kind of put down into the coming out soon category in order to try and hopefully play the remastered version when that comes out. Whenever that goes live, if we have no news about that, Mario Galaxy 1 and Mario Galaxy 2 are going to be shoved right back to the top of the list because they've been waiting in the queue for a while now. So, either way, just thought I'd kind of share that little tidbit. Speaking of which, Summer Game Fest was officially announced last week. I'm not sure what to say about that. This is something that's been building for years now. Jeff Knightley has been part of the Game Awards thing for a while, and he's also been part of trying to build his own brand with middling levels of success. So this is, and he actually has done several events similar to this leading up to this point in time. Summer Game Fest is basically his attempt to do an online digital news with in-game events with playable content between May and August. 4 months of just him doing stuff. Now, the problem is this was just announced, and we don't know a lot about the functionality of this. We know the lineup for Phase 1, which I'm going to go and list for you right here. We've got 2K Games, Activision, just Activision, by the way, Bandai Namco, Bethesda, Blizzard, just Blizzard, Bungie, CD Projekt Red, Extremes, EA, Sony, Private Division, Riot Games, Square Enix, Steam, Warner Brothers, and Xbox are all people who have already signed up to be a part of this event. like I said, we don't know very much about the actual functionality of what this is going to be. I'm going to assume that's what's going to happen is they're going to be like, and here's this event, and here's a demo, or here's a sale, or maybe you can try this game out. A lot of people have been doing the you can play this game for free for the week or the weekend thing. Some games have just been given away for free. Like right now, you can get like 4 or 5 games for free off of, between Steam, Epic Games, and Uplay, blah, 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 blah. Again, I don't have much to say here, and this isn't a full news item just because I don't know much about the reality of what this is going to be. I'll be keeping an eye on it, though, because it's interesting that they're going in this direction. And I do think this is a good move for Jeff Knightley, even though I don't like him as a person. Moving on. Speaking of news, you're probably expecting me to talk about The Last of Us 2 and leaks about The Last of Us 2. Obviously, we will not be sharing those leaks here because we're actually human beings. However, if you want to seek out the leaks about Last of Us 2, you can go Google that. That's all on you. The fact is, leaks have come out. Whether they are true or not, who freaking knows? However, this whole circumstance has been weird. And I don't really know how to discuss that without just saying that it's been weird. Like some random person decided to leak information, which then spread like wildfire, which then was immediately shut down, which has led to the company doing a massive and overextensive usage, improper, I might add, usage of copywrong in order to try and shut channels down, even people who haven't actually been reporting on leaks. So, just shotgun strategy. And on top of that, they then announced, we got the guy who did it. Don't worry, it doesn't work for us. No news on who did it, or why, or how, or anything. But it's okay, because he definitely was an employee. It's definitely not something to do with the policies and practices that we do in our corporate office, or the fact that someone literally almost died from working overtime on this game. Definitely not that. Like I said, it's weird. Now, to add on one little addendum to this one, let me go ahead and mention that almost immediately in the wake of this, they announced, oh, by the way, Last of Us 2 is coming out June 19th. Now, if you don't understand why that's a little strange, do remember that this same studio had said, okay, due to COVID and due to trying to not be horrifically evil when it comes to our practices of taking care of our policies, or excuse me, our employees, our policies regarding our employees, they said it's being delayed indefinitely, which is a technically literal accurate usage of the word, but functionally an inaccurate usage of the word. But no, it's coming out June 19th. So the fact that they announced this right in the wake of the leak is weird. And the fact that they announced this, and it's not even that much of a delay. It's like a couple weeks delay from the original release date. It was supposed to be May 29th, I want to say, originally, and now it's being delayed back like 2 or 3 weeks. That's the big delay that they had. They had to have this whole thing about an indefinite delay for 3 weeks. What? Like I said, this whole thing is weird. Moving on. That's actually all I got for random news. How many of you guys are interested in Assassin's Creed Valhalla? I am not raising my hand, by the way. Now, that being stated, I hope it's good. I do. Like, that would be awesome. Because I like the Assassin's Creed series. In fact, of the Assassin's Creed games I've played, only 2 of them have I not enjoyed. Only 2. Some of them have been...
Welcome. Pay close attention. Hopefully you'll learn something.
Some of them have been very vigilant. That's certainly true. But the ones who haven't been vigilant, I mean, those ones have been awesome. Like, some of them have been very frustrating. Some of them have been very aggravating. but I've still enjoyed all of them except for 2. And when I say 2, I don't mean Assassin's Creed 2. I mean 2 games. I'll go ahead and tell you. Assassin's Creed 1, I know I get a lot of flack for this, but I don't like Assassin's Creed 1. I didn't when I played it, and I don't now. And Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I didn't even finish because of how much I disliked that game. Thank you very much, Vigilant. Very much appreciate as always, sir. Thank you. I will immediately put that towards Lego, apparently. Oh yeah, this game is... So let's start with the most important thing. This game is apparently coming out this year. If you don't understand why that's weird, apparently I haven't been doing my job for me. But the release window for this one is this year. It's a pretty broad window. Not sure when exactly that one's going to come out. Hi, Majdi. But the release date does check out. It's just... Yeah, we don't have any gameplay trailer. In fact, we have basically no gameplay footage whatsoever. We do have several interviews, so normally I like to link stuff, but in this case there are so many separate interviews they've been doing on so many separate sites that when I link this in the VOD, I'm just going to link the Wikipedia page, which itself has like 20 or 30 links on it. You can just check there. Because there's a lot. Let's go ahead and run down what we do know about this. First of all, it is, Vikingers. Do you want me to start with the interesting, the bad, or the informative? Which one do you want me to start on? I'm hearing several people say bad, a few people say informative. Informative is going to be the longest one, so let's lay that for last. I like that. So let's start with bad, then we'll go to interesting, then we'll go to informative. The bad, Layla Hassan is in it, confirmed. Now, I actually kind of hope that several of you are like, who? But for those of you who know who that is... Layla Hassan is the modern plot. The one that, in my opinion, has been nosediving in quality hard ever since 4, specifically. As I talked about during the second Assassin's Creed lore run that we did, Assassin's Creed 4 actually had a good modern plot and started some interesting threads, which were then immediately forgotten, and the modern plot has been garbage ever since. Again, my opinion. She was not in 4. She was in Origins. She was introduced in Origins. She's also in the comics in brief tidbits, and she is in Odyssey. That's the one, the plot that goes nowhere. It was good setup. I stand by that sentence. Assassin's Creed 4's modern plot was good setup. It's just they then immediately abandoned it, and the modern plot just kind of has been terrible ever since. It was terrible in Rogue, it's terrible in Origins, it's terrible in Odyssey. It's atrocious in Odyssey, God. Some of you may remember during I forget if it was Odyssey or it was Origins, but during I think it was Origins, there's this part where I'm going through trying to read the lore of the modern plot, and the game literally has an objective of go back into the Animus. And there's literally a beeping noise from an alarm clock, basically saying, hey, stop reading the modern plot, go back into the Animus, while I'm sitting here trying to read this on stream. So that's the bad. Let's go with the interesting. The marketing for this was actually interesting. The way they've someone asked earlier, why is everyone buzzing about this? Probably because they actually did a really good job marketing this. So, first of all, they had a little Easter egg in Division 2, which some of you may remember. I actually remember because I saw it when I was playing Division 2 with my friends. A little poster. And there was all this, rumor and hubbub about Viking Assassin's Creeds. It all never amounted to anything, of course. Then, last week, they did a stream. A stream of, I wrote down his name, Boss Logic. Boss Logic, who is a an art design person who was actually sitting, and for 8 hours, he was designing this graphic mural thing on camera, live. And he did it in a very specific way to try and, savor, what exactly he was showcasing until the end. Although a lot of people, as soon as they saw the first, castle, were like, yeah, okay. The entire, whatever you have to say about Ubisoft or Assassin's Creed, this was a really good marketing move overall. And I find myself wondering how much of this they did just because of the fact that this is COVID, or if somebody in the marketing department actually had a brain. Because this didn't cost them much money, generated a huge amount of buzz, and got a huge amount of saturation. I famously like to talk about the bus ads for GTA 5, but honestly, one of my biggest complaints about marketing in the modern era is how much people burn money on wasteful marketing. Marketing, of course, is something that should take a large amount of budget, but not the amount that it is taking, especially for ads that aren't doing anything, and that cost way too much money for what they are. Or, to just use a lorium, I think that in many ways the marketing industry is a diamond industry. But anyways, that's my theory, Max Time, is that COVID is allowing people to say, hey, why don't we try this, and actually push out some good marketing ideas. This was brilliant. And it has generated a lot of interest and buzz about a game that honestly people probably wouldn't be all that excited about other than, the fact that they did this properly. So, that's the interesting. Let's talk about the informative. I got a whole bunch of factoids about this game. So, let's start with historical. This is set in 873. Now, I'm not a huge history buff on that period of time. However, I have studied it a couple of times because the Danelaw is a fascinating concept. And this is about 2 years after the Danish, specifically the Danish Vikings, also known as the Great Heathen Army, had moved in. And this is roughly 2 years before Guthrum really started making waves, if you happen to know who that is. And this would then put this about 5 years before Guthrum actually had his own kingdom. And the whole Guthrum-Wessex thing kind of really started taking off. It's pretty much right smack at the beginning of what would become the beginning of the first Danelaw era. I gotta keep saying that way because it's like a century of time, but let's not get into that. Point being, this is basically the period of time which people usually mentally think of when they think of Vikings, so it makes sense that they would go with this one. What's also interesting is that there's not a lot of codified history for this period of time. Now, I mentioned that because anybody who's studied history knows that we're all just guessing, right? We're trying to assume and guesstimate and try and put the pieces together based on what we have, right? Like, that's just history in a nutshell. And the closer you get to modern, the more likely you have an accurate piece of the puzzle. But certain periods in history, there's always this big asterisk of, yet, who knows? And this actually happens to be one of them. A lot of the historical documents for this particular part of history actually come from significantly after this part of history. And a lot of this stuff was passed down orally, which any historian will tell you, right? So we can only guesstimate it very, very loosely about some of these events. Now, you're probably thinking, why is that relevant, Lore? One of the actual direct quotes about this game is that they wanted to move away from something like, say, God of War, which focuses more on the mythology, and focus more on the concrete history. For a period of time in which is one of those asterisk periods of history. Now, I'm not trying to be cynical here, because what it sounds to me is they're just going to go ahead and write this period of history based on the framework of what they have, and we'll see what they come up with it. Now, that's fine. They've always done that to some extent or another. Assassin's Creed 2. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. But I'm thinking that they're going to use that... Okay, let me rewind a second. If I was on the writing staff, I would use that as a tool. I would use the lack of knowledge about this history thing as part of the story. And then write history. Write whatever they want for the story to actually have happen. And we'll see what the consequences of that are. If I'm being 100% honest, if I was doing this, I probably would set it in another part of history than this one. But at the same time, I do have to admit, this does give them a lot of freedom in the writer's room. They did release a video. The video is purely cinematic. It's all right, I guess. It's hard for me to care about a purely cinematic video when it comes to these kind of things these days. I know. I talk about this constantly. Show me some gameplay and I'll care. Still, at least they've got some, some cool cinematics and blah 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 going on. So that's the history stuff. There's going to be you can play male or female with full customization. There's going to be new weapons you can equip. You can dual wield just about whatever you want, including shields. This is an interesting quote. Every piece of gear is unique. Now, that's either a buzzword or what they mean is all of the loot in this RPG mechanics game is going to be manually crafted loot, as opposed to procedurally crafted loot. Just if I have to explain that, Diablo 2, uniques are all manually crafted. Well, that's actually not true either. In Diablo 2, basically nothing is manually crafted. Diablo 3 is also an example of this. Everything is procedurally generated to some extent or another. But you could argue that Diablo 3 has unique pieces of loot, which means I have no idea what they're going with. This is why I mention this, because this could mean anything or nothing, depending on how they're using it as a buzzword. You are going to have the Eagle Vision with your Raven, because of course, Odin, got to have that. As I mentioned before, RPG mechanics, they're supposedly trying to move away from your level, but they are trying to move more towards having a lot more RPG mechanics. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, it could be the Legend of Zelda idea, where literally every item you get is a unique item that is manually crafted. So I don't know. Conversations and... That would be funny and boring. Conversations and gameplay choices change your reputation. This actually makes a lot of sense. We semi-recently played through a game called Expeditions Viking, which is set in basically the exact same period of time for the exact same circumstance. And during that, you have two broad options. One is to conquer, and the other is to settle. Given this period of history and what little we know about it, it makes a lot of sense that because everyone is against everyone else and the political landscape is constantly shifting, it is most likely that having some kind of rep values for the different sides makes perfect sense. We'll see what they do with that, because rep can also be a grind. And Odyssey. 873, a boring. It's also possible they could pull an Assassin's Creed 2 and have this game occur over the course of a decade or two. Because again, the real stuff didn't get started until 878, from what we understand. But anywho, moving on. You can go on raids. You kind of have to go on raids. And when you're raiding, you gain resources. Resources are specifically for your township, your keep. And they have keep mechanics where you can go back and build buildings and hire people and blah, 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 blah. It's a keep mechanic, exactly what you're thinking. It's the friggin' town from Assassin's Creed 2. Now, I actually do like keep mechanics, legitimately. So, we'll see if they do anything good with this. I'm not sure, because this is... Keep mechanics can either be boring and dumb or cool and interesting. And in yours, there's not a lot of in between, so we'll have to watch that one. There is going to be naval combat, although it's apparently being heavily de-emphasized. And you're supposed to just use your longboat to go from point A to point B. That's going to be a form of travel. There's going to be tons of mini-games, including hunting, fishing, brawling, drinking, and flighting. The Conquest Battles are becoming a big deal. And that's where you go and actually try to take out a fortified spot with a bunch of NPCs that you recruit and make for that specific mission from your village. Now, yeah, exactly, Mendekler. Now, the Conquest Battles is a cool idea. I didn't like them in Odyssey because they were boring and dumb. We'll see what they do with this going on. I'm sorry, I hate to keep bashing Odyssey, but I really didn't like that game. Remember, just add "in my opinion" to everything I say. Just do that, please. I don't want to say that constantly. But yeah, Conquest Battles are a big thing, and we're going to be... you have the option to take keeps and other settlements and all that kind of fun stuff. The biggest new attachment to the Conquest system is Dragon's Dogma. How many of you even played Dragon's Dogma? I'll go ahead and raise my hand on this one. The way it works is you can make an NPC, a Joms Viking or something. I forget what it's actually called. And that's your NPC recruit. But you don't actually recruit them. What you do is you throw that out onto the internet, and other players can recruit your NPC. Thus, you can also recruit other players' NPCs for your Conquest Battles. If they do well, you actually get stuff for them doing well. So, Dragon's Dogma. That system worked in Dragon's Dogma, but it only worked because the players were with it. Right? I mean, that's how that system actually functioned. So, we'll see what happens with this one. Look at my notes. I mentioned the rep stuff. I mentioned the keep mechanics. I mentioned the time. Jom's Vikings. That's it. Ah. The last bit of news I have, the last informative thing I just have to say about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, is that it is going to be Epic's Games exclusive and also Uplay. Now, I say it that way on purpose because that's exactly how it's being billed. That's how the marketing has been pushing this. It's an Epic Games Store exclusive and also Uplay. So, in other words, it's just not going to be on GOG and Steam. Now, for those of you not aware, if you bought Assassin's Creed 4 on Steam right now, congratulations, you're going to have to get it on Uplay as well. Or rather, you're going to have to fire it. Like, if you launch it through Steam, it will then launch Uplay to launch the game. It's stupid. As a consequence, I already have a Uplay account, obviously, because this is my job and I play several of their games. So this doesn't even matter to me. I'll just buy it through Uplay. Sure. But I bring that up because the fact that they're doing this, yeah, the South Park game does it too, you're right, Mike Romano. I bring this up because the reason it's on the Epic Games Store is because Epic Games gave them money. We don't know how much. But I just want you to think about that for a second. The fact that Epic Games Store, Epic, paid out money to Ubisoft to get their game on their launcher. Like, I don't want to get too much into the Epic's Games weeds right now. I'm pretty anti them. I'll go ahead and be completely overt about that. But what's weird is, their whole policy of dumping money on a developer to get their game on their thing makes more sense when that's a small-time developer. Like, at least I could hear the argument and the logic if you're an indie dev or a mid-tier dev, or whatever we call those, AA developer, who's like, here you go. Here's this game. Here's some money. Please put it out on the Epic Store. That at least makes a degree of sense. What the hell does Ubisoft need with the extra however many millions? Weird move. And by weird, I mean scummy. But let's not get into that. Yeah, free money. Well, the funny thing is that from Ubisoft's perspective, it's such a duh, isn't it? Right? Oh, you want us to... You want to give us money for doing nothing? Okay. And that's what they did. They just get free money for doing nothing. And Epic Games gets an Assassin's Creed title, which, like it or not, those are big sellers on their store. Now, I hope you were paying attention earlier, because I mentioned the fact that if you fire up a game on Steam, it still launches on Uplay, right? I'm pretty sure if you fire up a game on Epic Games, it will then launch Uplay. So if you buy it on Epic Games... Like, you see the problem here. There's actually no reason to buy this game on the Epic Games Store whatsoever. just... Oh my God, Chico, we're getting there. We're getting there. Oh, I'm sure, of course, people will do it. Nowadays, I gotta be real, I actually don't have several modern Ubisoft games on Steam at all. I just buy them on Uplay because, screw it, I'm just gonna skip the middleman at this point. Right? I mean, it's already a Uplay game, why not just go for it? That's not 100% true. Sometimes I will specifically buy it on Steam because Steam has sales. But that's like the only exception to that. Anyways. In short, I'm pretty neutral on this one. Unfortunately, I don't know, like, obviously, so, okay. For those of you not aware, right now, the list of future games to stream is closed. It's locked down. We're not adding new stuff to the list. And that is, that being said, whenever that reopens, which, for those of you not aware, this game, the list will reopen when it's down to about 40-ish, actually, titles on the list. It's a lot higher than that right now. I'm totally cool with this game being added to the list. I'm curious, too. But as ever, that's up to you guys, not me. I'm just a viewer with an opinion. Wait. No, don't sue me, Sci-Fi Debris! Anyways. And yeah, there's a bajillion studios that have been co-developing this one. And that's been true for a couple of years. This game has actually been in development for a couple of years at this point. Will it be another Odyssey runs? Our game's going to be axed from the current list. No current plans to, no. The idea is to burn through the list until it's more empty. Oh, I'm with you, Hazardous. What we're probably going to get is either bouncing quality or just massive inconsistencies constantly. So, I'm telling you, Jesse's Best, nobody wants to watch me play Zelda. Nobody wants me to review the Zelda series. The reason Ocarina's in the list is because we never finished the Ocarina run. That's why that's there. Have I looked into the Ultimania translations? Yes. I'm not going to talk about that here for obvious reasons. What is the significance of Good Tidings? Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I forgot to finish talking about that. Good Tidings is a made-up holiday. Now, how much that matters to you is up to you, since every holiday is made up. I was just waiting for someone to say, you know... Isn't that it? Made up from me. Thank you very much, Retro Justice. Very much appreciated and obliged, sir. Thank you. And I put that towards Ocarina and Majora. So, I made up the run. I made up the holiday. Sis actually helped name it. Good Tidings is the name of it and what you're supposed to say, you know. Good Tidings. The whole point is that life sucks. But it could be much better. Wait, you want to change it, Jesse's Mask? Because you already put it towards Bioshock. If you want to change it, that's great. I can totally do that. I just want to know. Just want to make sure. Anywho, Good Tidings, it's about the idea of wishing well to someone. Like, that's the core idea of the holiday, that life is worth it, basically. That for all the garbage and the drivel and the dreck, that GTA 4 is wrong and GTA 5 is right, to put it into simplistic terminology. And I'm not going to tell you why it's May 3rd. It's very personal. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's an event that happened to me that was an extremely good event. It's probably the second best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. So that's why it's on May 3rd. And the whole point is, you know, that it's a day in which we remember that life could be, and has been, worse. I'm going to get a little preachy for just a second. But if you think life is bad right now, it isn't. I know that sounds weird to say that, but I want you to actually really think about how bad life could be. And has been. Life could be so much worse than this. The fact that we have ideas that matter, the fact that we can talk about intangible concepts and have them have relevance, that base, bare-bones concept shows how much better things are than they could be. This could be so much worse. And in my experience, as much as I am a cynical, bitter old man, I am also an idealist. And the reason my idealism has found expression, to quote Star Trek VI, is because I'm 37 and I've seen a lot of good in my life. I've seen a lot of awesome people.
Your dedication will be rewarded.
Like this guy, Jesse's Mask. I've seen a lot of awesome people doing a lot of awesome things. I see plenty of good things in my life, and I have for 37 years. Thank you very much, Jesse's Mask. Very much obliged, very much appreciate. Thank you, as ever and as always. I'm just going to assume you want to put that towards Ocarina. Let me double check, because I gotta update. Yep, okay, yep, just making sure. I have already put that towards Ocarina Majora. But yes, that's the point of Good Tidings, is that there is still good, there is still something worth a frickin' damn in this stupid piss stain that we live in. The end. That's the point of it. I suppose I should add one other thing. There's a kind of an addendum to that about shoes. And I was hoping Savacom would be here. My sister, I shared pictures of shoes too. So there's a setting called Primus. And by setting, I mean it's a planet. It's a planet called Primus. It's within my setting, the extant. And the Primus is a world which... Oh, God, I don't even know where to start. Let's not go into that. Nobody wants to hear me talk about my lore, my setting. All you need to know is that there's a world, and even in that world, which is isolated from the entire rest of the galaxy, that planet still has the concept of good tidings. The catch is, thanks to some issues, and again, I'm trying not to cover the lore here, thanks to some issues, they're not aware of the fact that the greater galactic community exists. They are completely in isolation. Make sense? So they're not aware of the significance or relevance of good tidings. So there's a group of people on there called the Bemarok. And the Bemarok, they remember good tidings because they have records of it, but no understanding of what it means whatsoever. So when they were trying to spread this and share this with others, they ended up doing so by giving someone shoes. The whole idea here is that one of the records that was retained was someone giving a gift of a nice pair of shoes to someone else, and it's like the only thing that they the only physical document that they had that showcased some actual act other than just saying good tidings. So naturally, that kind of became a thing, and over time, as weeks and months drifted into the whole years of cultural drift, it became a thing that on Good Tidings you gave someone a gift of shoes. Now, when I was actually running the campaign, the way this manifested, because we actually had a campaign day on May 3rd, and so we were doing, Good Tidings. So in-game, they encountered the Bemarok, and the Bemarok gave them a gift of shoes, and I mean magically enchanted shoes. And there was like some really, there was like rocket boots. One of them was like a plus 15 evasion kind of a thing. Just really, really nice boots. And the party was like, ooh, that one. Last year, I actually physically gave a new pair of shoes to my niece. She wasn't excited. She's young. And to my sister. She was a lot more excited. She liked them. Anyways. No, please don't send me shoes. I only have one pair of shoes and they're Crocs. That's a lie. I've got 5 pairs of shoes, but 2 of them are Crocs. I wear Crocs, by the way, for those of you not aware of that fact. and you don't want to hear the whole story about that one. Anyways, that's why the shoes thing is kind of a thing. Now that I've said all that, if you'll forgive me here, I want to share something, because this morning, Savacom, who is not here. I was actually hoping she'd be here, but she's not here. She actually sent me a picture. And I'm just going to share it, because screw all y'all, because this just made my morning. It really did. Unprompted, again, as I mentioned earlier. Unprompted. Let me find the actual image file here. There it is. She sent me this. Come on. There we go. There we go. And yeah, I thought this was incredibly adorable. See, it's nice big old shoe, Lego shoe, with Maud, Pinky, and Fluttershy. I think I'm not actually sure. And of course the shoelaces. Honestly, I wouldn't mind Veronian. Yes, pixelated shoe. Is it Applejack? God, I don't know. I'll have to ask her whenever she pops on, hopefully later. But yes, that was adorable, and that made my morning. It was good. I found a roach this morning, too. So that put me in a horrifically bad mood. But let's not get into that. Save that. Put that there. Anyways, I'm going to go and chop off the local recording.